Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're well. And thank you so much for joining me for this special edition, I guess, of HP Shalom. Good afternoon, everyone. For Shavuot. And there is my voice. So I know I'm getting through. Makes me very happy. I want to firstly apologize to everyone who waited or attempted to join with me yesterday. There's a software problem in the program. I have a workaround. It's fixed. And I'm sorry, your time is valuable, and I apologize that you had to wait for so long. But I find it more auspicious that we're doing this today, because tonight at sundown is Shavuot, which is one of several days. That's the very most important days in Judaism, because this is when Moses received the 10 Commandments, and is really the beginning of structured Judaism, codified with laws. And I wanted to speak a little bit about this. I wasn't going to say anything. And then a whole thing came to me, and I realized, I should speak about Shavuot. And I remembered a friend who encouraged me last summer to do little things on the various principal days throughout the calendar year, such as Shavuot. And I had promised to do so. And I felt a call, and ideas came to my mind. And I wanted to speak a little bit about the nature of covenant. Our covenant is a fancy word for agreement. And it's so important to everything that I teach. It's an entering into a relationship. It's sort of a contract in a way. You have an agreement on how your engagement with someone or something is going to be. And you promise things. And there's promises on one side in return for promises on the other side. And it's a living, organic relationship, which is sort of agreed upon, either verbally or in writing. And the nature of covenant is an ongoing one when we practice. We are engaging in our engagement with God when we pray, when we do mantras, when we read. And I wanted to look at Mount Sinai and the Abrahamic, the earlier covenant, briefly, to have an understanding of our relationship with God as it was set up historically, which sort of brings us to today. I don't want to get too much into details, and I'm not going to mention everything involved, so there'll be pieces I will not address. But I felt it was very important. And it's sort of ironic because this summer, I don't know if I said it a week ago, but I intended not to really teach and to focus more on practice. And here I am, finding myself with a microphone, teaching something more academic. But I find it important to understand history and how our relationship to God came about. And I'm going to front load it a little bit. So when I speak about certain things, you have the context. So I'm kind of giving you the ending a little bit at the beginning to try to keep this cohesive. Because this should not only exist in our head, we should live it in our hearts in our thoughts, in our words, in our actions. To understand how our forefathers behaved and thought and what they agreed to really helps us in our own lives today. It's not merely history. It's a living beginning that continues to this day. So I wanted to say that, actually, I'm going to say this a little later on, but the Ten Commandments, which is what Moses received from God on Mount Sinai, enters our relationship for God. And it's not merely for us to be obedient or for God to control us, but it's much more than that. It's an engagement into relationship. And I'm going to get back into a little more than that, into that in a moment. It's how we walk with God. It's the way, the path. It guides us into wisdom and into alignment, so our decisions are proper. And in a way, I'm calling this a little bit the golden path, because it's the path of conscious alignment with God. It's walking before and with God through wisdom and refinement and sacred practice and covenant. It's a very pure path. It's a holy path. And we're all called to walk it to the extent we can. And the color most associated with holiness is gold. And as you see with what I've mentioned, the pictures and the winter picture of the tree of life for the prayer Wednesday, you see the gold of the path leading to the tree of life. It's very much a central motif that I use because it helps us realize we're not lost. There is a way forward, and it's very much laid out for us. Here's one. Here. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, that what we're discussing today is, in a way, the path, how it was built, what decisions and agreements were made, and it points to something. A covenant, the agreement is not to become God's slave and for it to limit our lives and we resist it, we resent it. No, that's not it at all. We have free will. We can choose or choose not to. But what it is a way of walking, of guidance, a way of being in that energetic harmony that leads to something. In that way I'm describing, when you cleave to God, cleave to the principles of mercy and ethics and morality, you hold on to it close, you're walking that path. And the decision to walk that path is covenant. And in a way, through our entire lives, we always are making decisions. Is this decision in covenant? Is this in keeping with my walk? Or am I breaking that alignment? It's a decision that we make. It's our walk, our halakha, walking in harmony, aligning with the presence, living in alignment with the wisdom of the Torah and the Tanakh. We're refining our souls. We're returning ourselves to the divine current, entering into deeper spiritual clarity, becoming more open to the presence, to God, bringing our hearts and our minds in alignment with God, participating in the living covenant through our actions, our prayers, services, trying to become spiritually and religiously whole, living in sacred awareness. Our connection is through our entire lives 24/7. We aspire, we hope to be that. Our ideas, the way we perceive the world is different. We see the world in a different way because we walk with an awareness towards sacredness. This world isn't mundane, banal. It's not in a gray. It has a sacred element to it, which shows us how to walk it. Yes, we respect animals because they're alive. We take care of the trees because it's a little more than just being a dumb animal that doesn't matter or a tree that's just wood. We see the spirit in it. We see an aliveness. We feel a relationship too. And we choose not to live in aggression. And by doing all this, by walking in covenant, we align ourselves with divine wisdom and mercy and blessing. That's the other side of the agreement. God's promise to us in return for being in alignment. But see, our alignment brings us closer to God. The closer you are, the more you have these benefits. So in a way, it's a natural extension of our conduct. It's not so much He excludes us from Him. We actually exclude ourselves. Out of alignment, we don't see properly. We act in anger. More anger comes at us. We become angry people. We lose wisdom. We lose peace. It's not that God takes it away from us. We've sort of lost it. By working to reconnect those things, those attributes of God, peace, alignment, not anger, we naturally reconnect to the frequencies of God, and with that comes certain blessings and graces. But it's not necessarily that He brings it down, it's that we've made ourselves available to it. Like I've mentioned, God is like a sun. He radiates it. Do we cut ourselves off and block the rays of the sun? Or do we walk a path out of the forest, down a beautiful, let's just say, golden road, the road of life leading to the tree of life, eternal life, and turn our face towards the sun and receive the blessings of what the sun has? Turning our face towards God, and being in that rapport. that communion, that relationship. And that, my friends, is covenant. So this is a very, very, very important day, because the handing out of the commandments, the 2 tablets on Mount Sinai, is a deepening of that relationship, and God educating us on how to walk the path in a skillful way that's in keeping with a higher, more evolved way of being, which brings us closer to God. Yes, and I'm going to get a little more into that, but I wanted to set this understanding. So when I discuss Abraham and I get a little more into depth with Moses, you see how it fits in. Today is not merely a celebration, because this is really a great celebration, but it's an opportunity to recommit ourselves. Yes, I just went to hear my voice just to make sure I'm broadcasting. Okay? So there were 2 big moments of covenant. In Genesis is the first covenant, which Abraham, the patriarch of Judaism, of the Israelites, had with God. It was a more simpler covenant in the sense there was no extension of laws. Thou shalt not. There was really none of that. It was much more personal. God agreed to have a relationship with Abraham and his descendants, and that through them blessings would flow into the world. This was the first monotheistic religion. All the other religions on the planet had multiple gods. This is the first time that a group of people had one God. So they agreed to be in relationship with that one God. So it's a commitment. That was the covenant. And God in return agreed to be committed with them. So it's a form of a marriage in a way. So they were known as the people that believed in one God, which was very unusual back then. And it set them apart. And so their relationship, their prayers, were directed to God. We call Adonai, yes? So there was no Torah, there was no law of Moses, there was no temple system, there were no rabbinic structures. What it was a path of relationship, a path of covenant, and ethical conduct, and devotion and love of God. It was a response to God of the heart and of actions. Abraham's side was to be faithful, walking with God, trusting in Him, acting ethically, and a few other things. The structure is more of devotion, of trust, of obedience, being hospitable to others, open to the stranger, open to the alienated, open to those in need, ethical conduct. There were certain rituals that were done, offerings, prayers, and a walking before God. And in return, God promises several things to Abraham, but it was his blessing and protection and guidance amongst other things. It was an entering of a relationship. And God asked Abraham to be faithful, for Abraham's children to be faithful, to trust in the guidance, walk in righteousness, and to maintain that relationship. So, like I said, it's a form of a contract. There were promises made on both sides to be kept. It's an entering into a relationship, like marriage vows. Each side of the couple enter vows towards each other. So that was the first covenant. Here comes the second. So the Israelites left Egypt. They fled Pharaoh. They entered into Sinai, into the desert. After evading and Pharaoh's army was destroyed, they were by themselves in Sinai. And they wandered for a while. And sort of it's come about, nobody knows exactly how long it was, but right now, people basically have 50 days from Passover to Shavuot, the handing of the commandments. And that's when people sort of prepare themselves to sort of be ready to receive the commandments, to recommit to that sort of relationship. And so it's a period of the year called the Omer, where people enter into that. And there's contemplations that people do, and things like that. So it's meant to signify the period of time from Egypt to the receiving of this covenant. So this personal ancestral covenant becomes very much a national covenant, a people bound together by a shared ethical and spiritual framework. There was a large community that came out, and this really solidified the people who left Egypt, became a group of people that depended on each other. Some were converts. They were not necessarily all descendants of Abraham. This created a sort of identity, but it became people under the covenant. When Moses received, one second here, the laws, a new, closer relationship with God emerged. It had teachings. The Torah came into existence with its rituals and guidance, communal obligations, practices, keeping of the Shabbat, gave a collective identity, the people under the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Tanakh or of the Hebrew Bible, or any Bible. It's the first 5 books. And it had a very important revelation of itself. God didn't just manifest to Moses. He created signs that all the people saw. The parting of the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds, but also the thunder and the lightning and the lights on Mount Sinai. So everybody was able to see a manifestation of God in a very direct and collective way. He manifested. It wasn't just to Moses. So people got a sense of feeling of the presence and majesty of God on the tablets. Here, you're written, I just put one little saying. It says in Hebrew, I am Yahweh. I am Yahweh. I'm Adonai. The first words is I am Yahweh, your God. Anoki, Yahweh Elokeha. First words were not of thou shall or shall not. The first words is God giving his name and saying who he is. It's of relationship. It's a closer bringing in of a relationship that began with Abraham. A formal ethical, spiritual, religious structure was formed. And it transformed from a family lineage into a people who shared that covenant with a shared path. And it's not just, one second here. And Israel can be seen as the conventional path that points towards alignment with God for all sincere seekers. It's all those who wish to be in this alignment, have that covenant, and honoring that role and that commitment of what happened long ago and wishing to keep the path. And so the Torah, the first 5 books, God invites us to walk a path of justice, compassion, and wisdom, and to grow into a more just and loving world. And by entering into this covenant, we take on the obligation to act with integrity, fairness, and humility. So in a way, this covenant is about a shared responsibility to live righteously and thereby bring light and justice into the world, wherever we are. So in a sense, it's to be kosher and to manifest kosherly. The commandments is guidance on how to be kosher. And by being kosher, we have turned our face towards God, and we are open to those benefits. And it's up to our choice. It's not that God turns his head away, it's that we turn our backs to him. And if we turn our backs, we don't have our face to the benefits of the graces, of the wisdom, because we've lowered our vibration. It becomes very much a self-fulfilling prophecy. So by entering into the covenant in the exchange of these promises with God, we decide to root ourselves into ethics, justice, and compassion. And where those things are, so is God. So the covenantal path ultimately points towards alignment with God for all those who seek him, or who seek that road, or those virtues. Even if you don't necessarily believe in God, but you seek to act in that way. And that's very honorable. And it gives us a deeper sense of purpose. To walk in covenant, we're not just living a normal life. Our life becomes deeper. It has a meaning. Our actions become more transcendent and larger than ourselves. And we realize we have an effect on our lives, our societies, and everything. And we take responsibility for that. And it's a decision we make all the time. How do we wish to embody ourselves in this world? And if we live in a certain way, then God will dwell amongst us and provide guidance. So Sinai is not only a giving of commandments, a giving of a set of laws and principles of which to live by. It's really establishing and anchoring the divine presence here, which continues to this day. Presence of protection, blessing, and that continuity of the covenant. So I would suggest not to view the covenant or the commandments as God's domination over our free will, or we're bound by it, but as aligning ourselves with a higher way of living, of a way of living that's proper, that guides us to an ethical, moral refinement, that resonates with the tree of life. And we have a choice on how we wish to align ourselves with that or not with that. So spiritual disciplines and sacred practices are opportunities to align with divine frequency and consciousness, to raise our vibration so we think differently and we have those aha moments and see possibilities and options that we did not see before, or we see things in different ways. It's a blessing of a certain path. Our practice helps us interpret these principles to our modern life and to the changing circumstances. How do we take these guidelines that come from centuries that don't quite fit into today's world, into the question we have today? But keeping the principles, we understand how it would be seen today. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I'm totally distracted. I'm in a park and there's literally a snake moving towards me. I think I just need to make sure it's not one that I don't want to meet. Actually, it is one I don't want to meet. One moment, I'm just going to keep an eye on it here. This is wild. Okay. I'm going to have to find a different place to go. These things tend to be more afraid of us than we are of them. Yep, he's moving away. Lord. Yeah, I can't come here anymore. Okay, rattlesnake moving in a different direction. All right, sorry about that. So we're entering into that relationship. So this revelation, this meeting of God on Mount Sinai, hearing the voice, the thunder, the lightning, he reveals his face. He reveals his essence, and that transforms us. It changes our consciousness. When we enter onto the path, something changes in us. Our orientation through our decisions cause us to change. And that's the beauty of covenant. That change, that realignment, that activation are the blessings. And from that we'll get strength and encouragement and wisdom. We are transformed. Covenant is the essence of our religion. And if you're not particularly religious, it's the essence in living of the principles of justice, of life, of integrity, of peace. And that's a very honorable way to live. Because would you want to live in the opposite of that? That your life signified other things? We would hope that at the end of our lives, we've done good. We've improved the world. We've are a presence that people have a fond memory of. That our memory and our actions are a blessing to those who remain and future generations. Yes? So the wilderness journey is the Omer from Egypt to Mount Sinai, is a journey of preparation, of refinement, and being more receptive, and an openness to look at ourselves and see where we can make changes, to recommit, refocus, and to embody the essence of the covenant in our hearts. So we become the living covenant. It's not relegated to a book that was written thousands of years ago, or ideas that we see on TV. But we live it in our lives, in our actions. Merely than just believing in it or having the intellectual knowledge of it. Through our practice, through our mantras, through our prayers, we are activating the essence of the covenant, and we're walking it because we're improving ourselves energetically so we can connect to that living truth, the essence that's God. And the covenant is merely helping us connect with that by providing guidelines of things that kind of aren't so kosher. And then we have skilled people to help us interpret that for guidelines of actions to hopefully keep us in alignment. It's not control and blind obedience. There is a definite logic. It's to help us keep to the path. And it's living, and it's continually renewed. When we practice, we are participating in the covenant. It's a conscious participation in sacred alignment. Covenant is being in sacred alignment. And everything, I would say all of religion, but I dare not make extreme statements, but all of religion is to help us be in that sacred alignment. Otherwise, what purpose does it have but to align us with God? To assist us to live in perfect covenant to the extent we can. All my practices, everything I am about, everything that I teach, have taught, will ever teach, is about entering into that bandwidth, into that frequency, to plug in. So we have that flow and that guidance, those blessings, that communication that makes it easier and easier and clearer, and our lives is simpler to live and be in covenant. We live in covenant, we return to deeper covenant. So there's something I wanted to say, because it's something that has been contemplated by centuries, through the centuries, and people have it today. And there's a lot of confusion here, and I've spoken about it before in different ways, but it comes up here in covenant again. So I thought of a way, how do I explain this in a different way? Because there's a lot of resentment when bad things happen in life, when there's suffering, and it happens to good people. So living in covenant, believing in God, was never presented as a guarantee of a painless, easy life. Even in the Torah, the patriarchs, Moses, and many righteous people suffered loss, exile, uncertainty, betrayals, and hardships. The covenant is not a contract promising immunity, freedom from human suffering, but rather it's a path that gives meaning, structure, resilience, and relationship with God within suffering. That we don't walk it alone, but there's a structure on how to see it, how to walk it, a greater understanding of it, a meaning of life that's beyond what we're going through. And we have that relationship with God to lean on, to help carry us. But being in covenant does not remove us from the human condition. Death, illness, loss, adversity, aggression. But it can change how we walk through it. It can change how we handle the difficult moments. It gives us strength. Our relationship with God can give great strength to hold on to. And we have nothing else. Or when we're about to break. And that is real. And it gives us hope and guidance when we need it. The path is meant to help us grow in wisdom and compassion and endurance and strength and clarity and alignment with God, even when we are going through difficulties. The suffering is the condition of free will that exists on this planet because of human actions, society's failures, and the natural conditions of existence. It's not necessarily that we are being punished individually, but rather it's a manifestation of, well, could I be French? Some of the fucked up shit we have to go through. And it hurts, and it's painful, and it's not necessarily right. Oh, it's not right at all. But sadly, that's the condition. And it's apart from God. It's not of God. We are given free choice. What we can get from God is strength and guidance and principles that we can help us go through that in a better way, not be broken from that, by that, and find refuge in religion to help us make it through, to grow closer to God, not further away from Him in resentment. So, covenant is not so much if I do good, nothing bad will happen. It's more, if I walk with God, if I walk with Adonai, I will not walk alone through what is happening. I have that relationship to lean on. And it could be a real relationship. The path of the covenant does not guarantee a life free from suffering, as I've mentioned, but it may open us up to forms of grace, blessings, wisdom, resilience, strength, and inner guidance that helps us navigate suffering in a different way, to navigate adversity, challenges, difficulties in a different way. By living a life ethically on that golden path of the tree of life, in alignment with Yahwéh, we strengthen, we perfect how we see, how we live. We deepen how we view the world, our discernment. And we become more open to insights, compassion, and blessings. We're changed. The covenant changes us. And therefore, how we go through life is different. It's in a lighter way. We don't see death as an ending, but rather they continue. And there's a moment of separation as we're still here. It's not final. The relationship with God remains in the heart. We call to God for help. We don't turn on Him because that's not the nature of what's going on here. It's not God turning His back. It's not God rejecting us or punishing us individually. It's what's occurring for whatever reason. The covenant is kept not just through outward ethics or morality on how we live, but this is the point I really want to stress with this, and I have been stressing it, and why I really discuss it. Not just what have I said, but it's also really kept through our inner work that helps shape us on how we manifest in the world. Remember, we tikkun ourselves, we heal ourselves, then we bring it outwards. The path of prayer, sacred sound, contemplation, mantra, remembrance of God, relationship with God, and sincere spiritual practice help align our hearts and mind with that deeper intention of the covenant. They help us to clarify, create greater humility, compassion, understanding, and wisdom, which make us more capable of living the commandments and the covenant in a sincere and life-giving way. So in a way, spiritual practice isn't an obligation. Actually, it's a beautiful thing that one learns to want to do, because it becomes part of a living way that helps us keep the covenant, to grow our individual covenant, to grow our collective covenant, because it helps us direct ourselves towards God, towards a more ethical and awakened way of living, and hopefully bringing the entire world and our society in that direction. It's aligning with the living presence of God. The Shekinah is around us, in us, through us. The living presence of God is here, beneath the surface, on top of the surface. Everything alive has a presence and spark of life that comes from God, even that snake that slithered in front of me. It is all part of God's existence here. How do we relate to it? How do we treat it? How do we live in this existence? And I would just suggest and hope and pray that it's done in covenant, in relationship, in a beautiful, whole, and moral way. There's a quote in the book of Genesis, chapter 17, verse 1. Genesis is the first book of the Torah. It's, "Walk before me and be whole, blameless." Literally, it means walk yourself before my face, my presence. It has the word before. Walk yourself before my face. Walk yourself before my presence. It does not mean merely walking beside God in a casual way, nor an equal partnership, nor is it God following us. It implies we're living consciously in God's presence. We're orienting ourselves towards Him. We're exposed before divine awareness. God sees us. We're in front of Him. We're bringing our life in a way that we're under the divine sight, that we're in relationship. We are moving closer to God in a living relationship, not out of fear, but as a son and daughter to the Father, to Abba. Yes? It's not meant to be a fear. It's meant to be of respect, of appreciation, of wishing to please, but also realizing that being in that relationship is bringing out of us the best parts of ourselves and giving meaning to our lives. So in a way, it's a pleasing of our best parts of ourselves. Being in God's presence is where we come from. What gave us life? So why do we turn away from the source of life, from the source of love, compassion, wisdom, everything we like about this world, our attributes of God, our manifestations of God? I've spoken about that before. So when we turn into those things and we live in that way, we literally are keeping that vibration and we are in covenant. It's a direction. When we are in front of God, we're oriented. We're in relationship. It's almost, you could say that we live our life consciously in front of God because of that relationship of love to lean on, to pray to for help, to look for inspiration in sacred texts or in spiritual leaders when you need guidance or a shoulder to cry on or a blessing or a place to go to or a community to support you when you need it, death of a loved one or pain or you need some help. We can be that for each other. We can be living manifestations of that for each other. And the saying has a dynamic element to it. We're not standing still before God, but we are walking. The path is ongoing. It continues. It's a continuous relationship, a movement, a growth. And to be whole and blameless, it means we become whole, complete, aligned, sincere, undivided. So covenant is really about walking consciously in divine presence, improving ourselves, aligning ourselves, becoming more whole, more integrated, and more ethically and spiritually and religiously coherent together. So Shavuot is a very important day. It's a journey. It's a decision. And God is not the great judger that some would believe, but rather desires a repair, a rejoining, us getting closer. The face is always turned towards us, not out of judgment, but out of love. The hand is extended. It's whether we choose to reach out and to pull ourselves and Him closer. Covenant is alive. It's living. And it lives within us. Amen. So we could reaffirm our halakha, our walking with God today, and see how we wish it to be in the year to come. A decision to walk in His ways, known as the path of righteousness, the way of life, the straight path. May it always guide us. May we draw strength from it. So, I wanted to just do a little practice, if I may, to go back to a mantra that we worked on very powerfully for the new year. Yahweh Ori, the light of Yahweh, Yahweh my light, a golden light. If you remember, we did the New Year's Eve practice, which is on the website, in the YouTube channel, and it's also in the archives, where we did this practice to bring in the new year, to bring in the light of God to ourselves, our society, our families, and to the whole world. And it was a very, very, very powerful practice. I was blown away, and I don't think I ever described what I saw, but let me tell you, it was beautiful. And I sensed the sincerity, and I felt the prayers, and I saw the light, and I saw the grace descend. This is very real. And I thought today in covenant, there would be no more beautiful way than for us to bring forth that light through this sacred mantra. The words are in Hebrew, it's transliterated below, and then the interpretation. It's literally the manifestation of life. It's the pure, energetic connection that flows into this world and ourselves. Without the light of God, without the energy of God, none of this would exist. It simply wouldn't. So when we say this prayer together, we plug in. Plug in to find healing. We plug in to find connection. And we plug into the covenant that our ancestors have, that God extended to our ancestors and extend to us. And we decide to be part of that covenant and live in the light of Yahweh, in the light of Adonai, the light of Hashem, in the light of Abba, in the light of Elohim, in the light of Emmanuel, and in the light of Yahweh Vaheh. Many names of one God, light of El Shaddai. Different manifestations, but it is all the divine light. So we can call in that blessing, that strength, that wisdom. And may it come into us on this sacred day. So if you have a prayer space, or you find a moment, you have your prayer beads if you wish, and we're going to do this practice together. My prayer will be that you're all able to tap into that light, May we all connect, and may we all find what we seek, receive what we need, and grow in our relationship to the Holy One, HaKadosh. Amen. So we'll start in about a minute or so. Well, people may need a little bathroom break. So how about 3 or 4 minutes? Does that work? Okay. Hey, I'm not understanding. I'm not seeing. Hmm, one moment. I'm not. I'm seeing the mantra and the spelling in Hebrew on the screen here. I'm a little puzzled. So, just bear with me a second here. An equal partnership. No partnership. Nor is it God following us. All right. Just going to continue. Um, so even if you can't see it, we will say Yahweh Ori. It's the light of Yahweh. So we'll just do that maybe for 15, 20 minutes. Yahweh Ori, Yahweh Ori, Yahweh Ori, Yahweh Ori, Yahweh Ori.